Hello and welcome to Not Only Books, Episode 8. I'm Jason,
I'm Craig.
and today we're going to talk about two databases that a lot of institutions might use if they have theology programs, and those are Index Religiosus and L'Année Philologique. Did I say those right?
Yes, that sounds pretty good to me.
All right. Well, I'm going to hand it off to you to go ahead and walk us through what these are and how we can use them.
All right, so these two databases are supplemental to databases which Western Hemisphere people and who study theology would use. We typically know of ATLA, the ATLA databases, and we have covered that in a previous episode. But now these two databases come from the European continent, so they have a little different flair to them. They have definitely European centric interests there, as well as the languages are not just English.
Okay.
Most of it will be in French, Italian, Spanish, uh, German, the Norwegian languages, or the Scandinavian languages, that is, you'll find that. And so for the scholar, you say, okay, you want to do a good job if you're doing research, right? For
Right.
doing a dissertation or something really in depth. So you'll want to check these particular databases out. So what's, you said, index religiosus, so index of religion. So it most clearly parallels the ATLA database.
Okay.
But Lannee Philologique, that's something really different. It is centered upon the classic Greco-Roman world. So for the religious scholars, the early patristic material is going to be there. Early church studies are going to be there, as well as things that center upon the agriculture and business and things that happen in the Greek and Roman world
Okay.
will be found there and are relevant for the interpretation and understanding of the New Testament and are, of course, the progression in the early church. So these are great databases. They come from the L'Année Philologique comes from the International Society of Classical Bibliography. Of
Oh.
course, they have their own, I think, French name. And then Index Religiosus comes from the Catholic University in the Louvain.
Okay.
So these are not evangelical resources, but they incorporate the entire Christian viewpoints that are there.
Okay.
So that's a little background. It gives you a little understanding of why might want to use it and research it. And if you don't happen to have it at your institution, you could perhaps connect with another institution that would allow you to use it. So let's go to the website. We're going to go to the database, start with Index Religiosus. And so we're going to open up, and you can see that on our screen right now. So when you see it right there, you will note automatically, wow, that looks different than the EBSCO platform or the ProQuest platform that I'm accustomed to seeing in our Western Hemisphere world. So it's set up differently. It comes to us from a provider called Brepolis or Breopolis. Brepolis, they cover a lot of the European databases. So here we are in Index Religiosus, and it has some search fields, but you'll notice automatically it has it like into three areas there. The search field anywhere, publication year, and then themed searches, which translates to our typical way of thinking, faceted searches or specific subsections for searching. And here they've given us three really great ones. Discipline, notice canon law, biblical studies, studies in religion. So they've kind of grouped it there for you to easily search if you have a specific area you want to look for. Also area, geographical area there, and you can see a lot of it is more centered on the European continent, and then by general periods there. So it's in some very classic concepts of history. So I'm going to start out, but also by telling you this database has about 600,000 citations in it. It's updated 4 times a year or every 3 months or quarterly there. So there's an update. It's not a daily update, but a 3-month update.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to use baptism. We like to use baptism because that's a simple thing. So I'm going to start typing baptism, baptism, and I hit it. And you say, oh, well, I see baptism appeared. What happened? Yes, it did your search for you. And I want you to see right down here, it says there are 2,056 citations for us in this particular thing. Now, there's something a little different. I want to point out right now, I'm going to take out this baptism. I'll take it out. But now I'm going to start typing baptism, but I'm going to slow down. Let's back this up. I'm going to start typing baptism. I'm going to start typing baptism, and you will notice that it has supplied a different baptism, baptism by subject, and then there's some other areas there. So the little hiccup happened, but the point is, if you just type in quickly, it's going to go to a keyword. If you slow it down and wait for it, shall we say, wait for it, it'll show you the word that you're looking for and if it appears in the subject. So I'm going to take this baptism with the capital B here by subject. If I click it, I want you to see that the result field is different there. Obviously, the difference is anywhere, keyword, or subject baptism. So just for the user who hits index religiosus, just be mindful of your typing and what you're going to get, because you'll say, oh, librarian at this institution, I only got 700, but somebody told me there were 2,000. Why is that? It's the difference in the search fields that are there.
And we've seen that in other databases that we've looked at where you've got to really be intentional about how you're searching because the records are designed to give you different information depending on the field that's being read. And so this is just a great example of the difference between subject and keywords.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of difference, shall we say, between 700 and 2,000. There could be a potential gold mine of material that's relevant to your topic. So how do we get those particular? We're going to keep to the word baptism as a subject. Well, you have to hit the word subject. It doesn't tell you that, but it would be very nice if it would tell you that particular thing. I like the way the screen now displays for our viewers. Looky here on the left. It has transposed those themed searches or qualifiers to the left. And neatly, really neat, is that it gives you the number, the count that associates baptism with history of the church and theology, or liturgy and sacrament. So, and by region, so you can survey your topic or look more precisely as to where information is flowing into that content. So you will note that the names of the articles do sound non-English. You can also notice there are interesting items that you will find, like number three, the Bible and My Little Pony. All right, but notice that the book that it's in, it identifies that it's a book. It is in Bibles in popular culture. So there gives you a relevancy there. How it ties into baptism would have to be delved in to discover a little better right there. So you can see it tells you new. In other words, new appears if it is an article that was loaded in the last update. Okay. So if you're going to do your research over a period of months or years even, that will tag you to know this is a new bit of information, which is cool. Also, I also like the way it identifies their article in a book or article in a journal. So it qualifies it for you in a very visual way to see there. All right, I'm going to move us down so that we might look at a particular one. I like this baptism, Matthew 28, because that's pretty clear. That probably has to do with a passage in the biblical text related to it. Here, it tells us that it's in the Oxford Handbook. And you say, oh, I can add it to a selection. If you add it to a selection, it goes into a list, which you can export at a later point. You can cite it. It gives you some various abilities to cite it in different formats, including our Chicago and APA, MLA style. So it will pull that together for you in a very quick way. So you look at this and you say, okay, I would like to look at this citation. And here we go. It gives you the full information. And here's the external link, which also is the same thing as the full text link that was on the other page. You can jump to the article, or it might take you to the doorstep of the article. In our case, it's saying that here's the article, here's an abstract. You can try to sign in through your institution. If you're in a particular situation where you have a single sign-on, you're authenticating through your school or library, it will probably pass you straight on into it. If your institution has paid to buy the book or paid to get the subscription for it. In this case, we have not, and it tells you to sign in through your institution or to sign in directly if you have a personal account, because some of these resources allow you to buy an individual subscription to do it, and you could sign it in there. So it gives you the option, sign in through your institution. My general suggestion is if you want, you're welcome to always try that. But more than likely, you're just going to hit a dead end because you're already probably signed in through your institution. So it's taking you to the doorstep. It's showing you an abstract of the information. It gives you a little better idea. Hey, I really think I might want to read this. So there comes the point, your decision point. What do you do? I need it right now. I can't wait. I got to pay for it myself. It could be a lot of money. Or you go to somebody else in the library which you're associated with and you ask for what? Jason?
Ask for an ILL request for this digital item, and they try and see if they can find it. And 9 times out of 10, I bet they can get it.
And usually free or at a cost which is covered by the institution.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to look again at this record and point out that it tells us where the discipline is, because they've not only classified it by subject, but by discipline. That's pretty nice to know. You can see there are names associated with it, but here it gives you a biblical reference. And obviously, we looked at the article because it did pull that up. Here you can link to other articles if there are any. There's only one that has that specific reference for Matthew 28. If there were other articles on that same scripture, that would have appeared.
Now, so how would I choose to search by scripture in Index Religiosus if I had a specific scripture in mind that I wanted to look for?
And that's a very good question because we know in Atla we have the scripture search and it is like a branches of a tree. Index Religiosus is not quite as good as that, but it has a nice feature. We're going to do a new search right here. So it brings us back to the beginning of the platform. And to do a scripture search, you will do biblical references. You use this pull down qualifier that's not in those other disciplines. So you say biblical reference. Now, again, I would counsel you to go slow.
Hmm.
Let it help you by showing you what is available. So I'm going to start typing Matthew. And you can see the three little dots. Now it's going to show you the specific citations that it has related to scriptures that are there. Now, it's a little different in the patterns of the digits for the book and the verses. You can note on the screen here, it's got 001. So that's obviously chapter 1. But if you look down here, it's got 001, comma 01. In other words, Matthew 1:1 through Matthew 1:16.
Right.
So that's how it's parsing out the book and verse for finding biblical references. So you say, well, where's the rest of them? Right here, I see clothes. Well, hidden over in the right-hand side is these two little arrows, which one wishes they were a little bit bigger.
Hmm. Okay. So it's like a page.
It's a page. So it's going to jump you through the pages as it goes down and does chapter there. So you could, in effect, browse through there, or you could start typing in some of the chapters if you like here.
Okay.
So that's the best way to find a biblical reference within this particular database. So now that pretty well takes us through the Index Religiosus. We've seen how to find a topic. We've seen that it's disciplined, it's faceted or thematically arranged. So now let's jump to the other database, Index L'Année Philologique. We are in Index Religiosus. Well, if you're in Briopolis already, it's cool in some ways because you can just pull down right here and jump to the other database.
Okay.
Now, we already have the database open in another window, so I don't want to tax the system because the other thing we need to tell special about these two databases are they are expensive, and usually the institution may have a limited number of simultaneous users. So the smaller schools, the smaller colleges and seminaries may only have one, two, or three simultaneous users. A university like Baylor might have an unlimited, or the Catholic University in the United States would have a larger number. But for our particular institution, we have about 1 to 3, and we don't want to tax that. So here we are in L'Année Philologique. And in this screen, you can see it has the same layout. The themed are different, but are relevant to the content that they are covering. Here, you can see the discipline by literature, law, and justice, modern reception, the area, and then the centuries, because of course it is classified for the Greco-Roman world.
Right.
So it has a very small span that's there. Notice that the number of records are in the millions. So this is a little bigger kind of a database. So it covers a good amount of material, articles, and reviews. So for this one, I'm going to use a different topic. I have chosen the topic of the crucifixion because that is particularly used in the Greco-Roman world.
Right.
So it's still working on it right now. You can see on our screen, it is trying to find that word as a keyword or a anywhere word.
There it is.
And there we see crucifixion with a capital C. So we know that that's going to jump us to the subject of crucifixion.
Right.
I'm sorry, I did not select crucifixion as a subject. I went ahead and hit the enter key, so I got the anywhere crucifixion, but we'll go back and take a look at that. So here we find 195 items. It also transposed the themed searches and moved them to the left. And instead of using the subject heading, jumping back, I'm going to go over here and hit this one right here with the subject crucifixion, which we know, right there it is. It'll reorganize us and give us the special subject of crucifixion. So there's like a little tip if you want to use a anywhere search for crucifixion. Look on the left, you might see discipline, and there is a specific subject search for crucifixion listed there. So it's kind of a librarian's magic secret, a backdoor or workaround there. So here we've refined it down to 181 items for us to look at. This likewise, you might find some interesting topics. This one obviously is very much centered upon the writings related to the practice of crucifying uh, people in the Greco-Roman world. You'll find some of the technical aspects. You might pick up some related medical research where they've found in archaeological evidences. So for the scholar in the New Testament studies, particularly, or in early church studies, there's a lot that can be picked up through that particular area as well as ethics. And interesting topics like number 2 here on our page, crucifixions and pizza parlors, which it sounds very fascinating. I come on to look it up and read about it. And so, don't discount anything based upon a title, or don't judge a book by its cover, right? You'll never know what you might find there.
Well, now I'm wondering because knowing the people that would have been writing, and since we're looking at historical documents, how would I search for the writings of a particular author from the time period?
And that's a great question, and something that New Testament scholars and patristic scholars want to know about, not just by the subject, but by by an individual and the breadth of topics that he might have written on. So let's go to a new screen, a new
Okay.
search to find someone. Let's try Irenaeus. So we're going to choose the specific area of ancient author and text to find out writings on someone from that period. And we're going to use Irenaeus as our subject to look for. So we'll look up and we'll start typing in, and it will use the close fact pulling the characters for it. And we're going to choose the one, Irenaeus, the Textus, because we want to find out things that he wrote about. We could possibly look at the Grammaticus Etudius or studies, but we're going to choose this one right here. It gets us 26 results.
Okay.
And now you can see uh, the items that are displayed, like item number 2 and 3 against heresies and others
Mhm.
related to that. And because Irenaeus wrote in the period against the heresies of the Gnostics, he was one of the foremost writers in that area. You know that you've landed on the particular material in that area.
Mhm.
You can also do the same search for a historical person in Index Religiosus, just using the themed a pull down for historical person.
Okay. So we've looked at two databases, both that are really looking at much older materials that would be useful for um, a doctoral student, or maybe even a student working on a thesis, perhaps, or an author that's writing something dealing with historical theology, or even biblical theology, looking at the historical aspects of it. But those are Index Religiosus, which deals with really more of the Western Europe, I guess, because I saw medieval up through modern, or L'Année Philologique, which is looking more at the Greco-Roman, so the more ancient history. Yeah, I think it started at 22 BC. And so those are the two databases that we looked at today that you showed us how to work through. Any last comments on those?
Um, of course, the writings are interpreted in the 20th century or the 21st century, but clearly it does cover periods that are long gone,
Right.
and they're good areas for research. And as you said, they're perfect for the scholar who needs to know a more inclusive understanding of their topic.
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Not Only Books, Episode 8. Make sure you come back and catch us for Episode 9.